Hello everyone, this is Ravi Khanna. So I am an IT professional. I have over 16 years experience in IT. So I worked as a Java developer, as a technical lead profile, and I was into technical management for quite long period of time. My expertise is in Java, J2EE platform, even on front-end side. I know both front-end, back-end programming, including DevOps and database. So today we are going to discuss about OOPS concepts in Java. So let me quickly share my screen. Now, mostly people are confused about OOPS. So OOPS is about object-oriented programming. Now, what is object-oriented programming? So Java OOPS concept refers to programming languages that use objects in programming. So basically, we use objects in our programming through certain ways. So they use objects as a primary source to implement what is to happen in the code. Now, OOPS, object-oriented programming, aims to implement real-world entities like inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction. So these are various pillars of OOPS concepts. The main aim of OOPS is to bind together the data and the functions or methods that operate on them so that no other part of the code can access the data except the method. So we have certain access modifiers included in Java library, which allows us to hide the data. Okay. Now, firstly, we'll go through a class. What is Java class? A class is a user-defined blueprint or prototype. Okay, or you can say a template from which objects are created. It represents the set of properties or method that are common to all objects of one type. Using classes, you can create multiple objects with the same behavior instead of writing their codes multiple times. Now you do not have to rewrite the code, okay, each and every time. So that we'll see how it is possible through, inheritance. Now Java object. What is an object? Object is a basic unit of object-oriented programming that represents real-life entities. A typical Java program creates many objects, which, as you know, interact by invoking methods. We invoke the methods and we try to access the variables value and actually the data. We try to invoke and use the data. The objects are what perform your code. That are the part of your code visible to the viewer or user. Object mainly consists of state, so it is represented by the attributes of an object or like properties or variables. Behavior it is represented by the methods of an object, which is the behavior of your object. Identity is something which we give a unique name to an object so that it enables it to interact with other objects. So let me show you an example of a class. So this is my basically a class, Java class, bicycle. And I have declared defined two variables, gear and speed. Okay. So this is like as a property of this bicycle class object. So we will create the object. Now this is just a body of a class. So public, this is access modifier. You can give it as a public, private, protected, or default. Class is the keyword and then the followed by the class name. So this brace, you can see the opening brace and the closing brace. So this is where your class is actually defined within this braces. So this is the body of a class. We call it as a body. So these are the variables. This is my constructor. So what is constructor? Constructor is the same name, defined with the same name as the class name, as you can see, which is basically used to initialize the variables, the objects variables, instance variables. Now as we declared these two variables, gain and speed, so we are initializing these two variables over here in the constructor. So this refers to the current object state. So, and as we can see, gear and speed are associated with this object. So you can initialize with these dot gear speed. So it will refer to the current instance. Now we have declared three methods over here. Apply brake, it will decrement the speed. Speed up will increment the speed. Okay. So this is just uh, another parameterized method I have created. So we will see that the purpose of this method. And toString method is declared to print the values of these two variables. So this is my class. Okay. And so we have created another class over here. So what publish static void main. So what is main method? So main method is the method which indicate it tells the compiler that from where your actual Java execution will start. Okay. So public static void main, we pass the argument here as a parameter. Now here is something we create an instance of the object. Now this mountain bike is the another class, my child class. We will explain this about this, the child class and the parent class. But basically we are creating an instance over here. Okay. And then we are invoking the method. And we are just printing the values over here, and then we are invoking the instance method. Now about OOPS concept. So what are the main pillars of OOPS concept? So inheritance, abstraction, polymorphism, and encapsulation. These are the main pillars of Java OOPS concept. Now, what is abstraction? Data abstraction is the property by virtue of which only the essential details are displayed to the user. Now, there are certain details which we hide from the user. Okay. As a developer, you know about abstraction, the abstract methods, but the main user or the customer will never know about it, the internal logic, business logic. It is basically the trivial or non-essential units are not displayed to the user. So suppose the example is a car. Car is a real entity, which is an object. So you view as a car as a complete entity. Okay, just forget about the individual components, the tires, the mudguard and everything. But basically it is altogether a car in itself, a complete object. Now data abstraction may also be defined as the process of identifying only the required characteristic of an object, ignoring the irrelevant details. Now, this is the syntax of how you create an abstract class. Abstract class, class name, followed by the curly braces, and you create your abstract method declaration over here. So, abstract methods means you just declare the method, you do not define it, you do not create the body of this method. So, this is called abstraction. Encapsulation. It is defined as the wrapping up of data under a single unit. It is a mechanism where you bind together the code and the data you manipulate. Okay. So as an example, as we have seen that this mountain bike, this is a class. So encapsulation within this class body, I am actually encapsulating my variables and the methods. Okay. Including the constructor and obviously the main method. So this is encapsulation because I am hiding this from the other class. Now, this is generally we declare our variables with private modifier in order to hide this variable's value. From outside this class, it cannot be invoked. Okay. So we are trying to hide this variable value, but it will be used within the class. So I can use this method, this variable's value, I can initialize in my one of the method. But outside the class, it will not be invoked. So this is called encapsulation. Okay. Now comes the inheritance. Inheritance is the mechanism in which, in Java, by which one class is allowed to inherit the features like fields and methods of another class. Or you can say base class or super class. Now here comes the concepts or the terminologies of superclass and subclass. Now what is superclass? The class whose features are inherited. okay, is known as superclass, or we call it in common terms as base class or parent class in Java. Subclass is the class that inherits the other class, or we can say the subclass inherit the other class, that is main superclass, sorry, or base class. So it is known as subclass is called as derived class or extended or child class. The subclass can add its own fields and methods in addition to the superclass fields and methods. Now, as we have this subclass created mountain bike, now you can see over here that I have created its own instance variables seat height and methods. Okay, like set height. So these are the methods and variables of mountain bike. Okay, including now if I inherit, so it will inherit the uh, properties, I mean the variables and the methods of bicycle class also, including it will have its own methods and variables. So that is called reusability. Now, if I want to use these variables, gear and speed, and the instance method, I do not have to rewrite this code again and again. I can just reuse these variables and methods from my base class. So this is where we inheritance supports the concept of reusability. That is when we want to create a new class and there is already a class, suppose, that includes some of the code that we want. So now we do not need to rewrite that particular part of code. We can just derive in our new class from the existing or the base class. So this is called reusability. Now, polymorphism. Polymorphism refers to the ability of object-oriented programming languages to differentiate between entities with the same name efficiently. This is done by Java with the help of signature and declaration of these entities. Now, I will explain. Like suppose polymorphism in common terms, we say one name and many forms. So, as you can see, there are two methods with the same method name, but signatures are different, means parameters are different. Here one parameter, here two parameters. Okay. So this is called method overloading. Now there are two types of polymorphism in Java: compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Okay. So what is compile time polymorphism? It is a concept of polymorphism where more than one method share the same name with different signatures in a class. Now return type can be same or it may differ. Okay. So as we can see in our this class, in bicycle class, you can see I have created two methods with the same name but different signatures. So this is called method overloading. Okay. When I have the same method but signatures may vary. So this is called method overloading because I am overloading the same method name, the other method name with the same name. Okay, which is already declared over here. Now, what is runtime polymorphism? Runtime polymorphism is the concept of polymorphism where method in the child class or derived class have exactly the same name, return type, and parameters as in parent class. The child class provides the implementation in the method already written. So you can see over here in the this is my base class in which toString method is declared, and I am trying to print the values of this gear and speed. Now I have declared a mountain bike, my child class, where I am overriding the same method over here with the annotation, as you can say, uh, at the rate override. So it will override the base class toString method. And as you can see, super keyword is used to invoke the base class methods and variables. So I'm invoking this toString method of bicycle class, base class, and concatenating or printing the values of this child class variables. So as you can see, so I have created an instance of derived class, my subclass mountain bike. Okay, I have instantiated it, and now I am invoking the toString method. declared over here. Now, what it will do, it will print the values of the base class, including the this variable's value. So suppose I try to run this program. Let me comment out this line. Okay. So see, now it has printed the values. So firstly, it printed this value and not toString method. So it is basically calling the base class toString method. Number of gears are, you can see it is printed over here. Then the value of the gear and the speed value. Okay. And then it is printing the value of the seat height variable. So this is called overriding. When we have the same method with exactly the same signature in the base class and the derived class. So in runtime, at runtime, we actually decide if I have to invoke the subclass method, base class method, or the child class method. Okay, so runtime you decide. So that is what is called as runtime polymorphism. So I hope those concepts is clear to all of you. So these are the basic concept in Java. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you so much for viewing my video. Happy learning. See you.